Hi everybody, I'm Kayla.
And I'm Camille.
And welcome to a very special episode of the Resident Rulebreakers.
Yes. So the following interview was conducted on May 16th of 2020. And we interviewed Steven Reddington, who played recurring character from seasons 1 and 2, Dr. Bradley Jenkins.
And we're just warning you now, in the podcast we discussed with Steven suicidal ideation and depression, and so if this is something that is a trigger, we just want to warn you that you may not want to listen much further. But we did discuss this because it was part of his character arc in The Resident.
Yes. If you are having suicidal thoughts, please don't hesitate to call the National Suicide Prevention Hotline, 1-800-273-8255. Again, 1-800-273-8255. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, and without further ado, here's Steven.
How are you?
I'm great. How are you doing?
How's life treating you?
Pretty good. I'm dog sitting right now for a couple friends, so I'm getting my puppy therapy in. Just trying to.
And your TikToks.
Yes, I started a TikTok channel. I've been on there for about 50 days, and it's all consuming. It's taking over my life. I need a break. So that's why I'm glad I'm here.
It's like our comedic break during this quarantine.
Yeah, good.
Watching you and Jessica's TikToks are hilarious. Anyway. Okay, so tell us about yourself. Tell us about your career before Resident. Where are you from, etc.
Yeah. Okay. So. As you both know, I'm Steven Reddington. I played Bradley on the show, Bradley Jenkins. I currently live in Atlanta, Georgia. I've been here for about 9 years. I've been here for 9 years. I moved from Colorado. I used to live in Colorado, but I grew up in Chicago and then Tennessee. So I spent most of my younger years in Chicago area, and then moved to Memphis, Tennessee, and then I went to school in Knoxville, moved to Colorado for a little bit, and then came to Atlanta. So that's how I wound up here. And I did move to Atlanta to pursue acting. I wasn't doing it originally.
What were you doing before?
Well, I graduated from University of Tennessee with a degree in finance. And I actually worked as an investment analyst for a couple years right out of college. I was doing portfolio management, personal wealth management stuff, cubicle work, cubicles and spreadsheets. And
I can't imagine you with a suit and tie.
I know. Thankfully, it was more business casual, so I got to wear it was still button downs for sure, but that was well, heck, you've seen me in a suit and tie, right? Quo Vadis presentation.
Yeah.
Yes.
But yeah, that was my job before being an actor, and I just realized you know what, this is just not for me, and I didn't really know kind of what was for me. I grew up acting when I was a kid. I was actually a child model when I was 1 year old.
Oh my God! Please send us pictures of that.
They're on Facebook. If you do it, find them. Did a bunch of Lee jeans, Oshkosh Bagosh, I did some Nintendo ads back in the day. It was all print, but I was a child model, and I used to act in plays when we lived in Chicago. And then, as I grew up, I started thinking it was time to you just think that you need a quote real job, right? And I went to college to get a degree in something that I felt would actually make me some money. And I realized I hated it. So, a long way around, but I wound up working for a young men's leadership program in Colorado for a couple years after the finance job. And, I'd kind of done the corporate America thing in the finance job, and then I kind of did the the ministry nonprofit thing, and both of them had their value. And that's when I just started kind of re-engaging the whole acting thing. and I was 26 at the time. So it was later in life, and I thought, man, it's way too late to pick up an acting career now. You know, I've been doing this for years. But yeah, I left Colorado. I worked on the crew of a movie called The Help. Have you heard of that movie?
Yes. Oscar winning.
I know, yeah, right. You might have.
I love that movie.
Yeah, but I worked on the crew of that, and
did you ever did you taste the chocolate pie?
No. You know what I actually did? The place where they got the pie. I mean, obviously it wasn't the one that you're talking about.
Oh, of course.
For the sake of the movie, I don't remember where it came from, but they made a bunch of them, and I was at a house with one of the producers and the author of the book, and they had one. Did you want to try it? I said, yeah, heck yeah. I do. So it was not the one you're talking about. But, So yeah, that's kind of.
So what was your first TV role then? Was once you got to acting or what? Once you decided acting is your thing, what was your first audition and acting role, TV role like?
Well, I did the I worked on The Help, and somebody on The Help told me Atlanta where it was about to start it was going to be where it was happening.
Right.
And that made sense for crew members, but I didn't know if that made much sense as an actor. However, one of my best friends lived here, and I just thought, well, I can go sleep on his couch for a little bit and figure it out, So that was 2011. I got an agent sometime around then. I think I did my first professional job for Home Depot sometime in 2012, and then I did a Georgia Lottery commercial, and then early 2013 I booked my first television show, and it was Halt and Catch Fire on AMC. So it became same producers, a lot of the same people as Breaking Bad, and I was in the pilot. So I was in the very first episode, and I was first scene, first episode. I was a student in the classroom with her. And at the end of the episode, I'm thinking I'm in class with the main character. I'm going to be in this show a lot. And at the end of the first episode, she says, forget it with school. And then she goes off to do whatever she does. And so now, if she's not in class, I'm not in the show. So I had
right.
I think I had 2 scenes, and then they cut one of them. So I really just had the 2 lines in the beginning. But that was my first role, 2013, co-star. Also my only other bearded role. Every other role has been clean shaven, except for Bradley.
I asked you how much it would cost. I asked you before, would you shave your beard? You said that if someone pays you for it. I was
right.
How much would you? How much do I have to pay you?
$1,000. Yeah. Well, I would. It depends on the role. I don't think it's as cut and dry as a single dollar amount. I think you could do. I could do a meaningful project that doesn't pay hardly anything, and I'd be totally into it. It was hard when I was on The Resident. I couldn't really shave it because that character had the beard. I would have that conversation. So other things that I was doing, like commercials and stuff, I take it or leave it. I've got a beard right now. So yeah. But that's Halt and Catch Fire was my first role.
That's cool.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
yeah, look that up.
How was the auditioning process for The Resident?
Okay, so like I said, I live in Atlanta. In LA, a lot of things are done in person still. In Atlanta, a lot of auditions for film and television are done with a self-tape, which is just they send you the script. You get to film it. You can film it at your house, or you can go to a taping service. And this one was no different. And so I don't think I had auditioned for the show yet. This might have been my first audition for it. And I was kind of wondering why. You know what I mean? I was like, why am I not auditioning for the show? And then I looked up the cast, and I saw Matt was the main guy, and I thought, I don't think I'm going to be on a show. I think I have too similar of a vibe, with his hair, same kind of haircut. He's a little scruffy, the white guy, I was just like, I don't think they'll put me on this show. So maybe that's why, And I get the audition for Bradley, and I don't know if you guys knew this, but the character was supposed to be tall, lanky, long hair. Originally written as tall, lanky, long hair, and I am
How tall are you?
Not lanky. I'm like kind of stocky, 5'8".
Oh yeah.
And long hair, And so I get this audition, and my roommate at the time too, he had the audition as well, and he's at least tall and lanky. So I thought, what am I even doing here, So I get the audition. I think, there's a reason why they asked me to audition for this. I don't know what that reason is. We don't get that communication, but I'm gonna still do it, right? And if you remember the first episode, Bradley is doing the surgery and all that. So
you were sleeping, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So I did. So my friend wanted to film it at night, and I said, I just think I'm just going to do it in the morning. And I woke up in the morning. I didn't drink any coffee. I just hopped in the shower, and I just said, look, he's supposed to be tired. I'm tired. Here we go. Let's do it. I kind of picked the reality that Bradley, I didn't want to have to play tired. I wanted to look tired and try to act not tired, if that makes any sense.
Yeah. That makes sense.
I got this, Dr. Bell. I can do the surgery, Act under the eyes, just falling in and up.
Yeah.
How did I got? So yeah.
Did you know it was going to be a multi-episode arc?
No way. No, I don't even think they knew it was going to be a multi-episode arc. I'm pretty sure they didn't. I don't know for sure. You're going to have to ask Amy about that. But the script that they gave me for the first episode was I was in 3 or 4 scenes. I'm tired. I'm tired again. I pass out during the surgery, and then I don't see anything else. So for all I knew, does Bradley get fired? I don't know. You know what I mean? I'm pretty sure that's a big screw up. So for all I knew, that was my last episode. I just assumed it was. I even asked a doctor friend of mine, I said, would you get fired for something like this? And he said, not necessarily, but you could. So I think it could have gone either way. And when they send out the audition, they kind of give this little caveat that medical staff could come back,
Mm-hmm.
You don't know. Because if you're playing a nurse or a doctor or whatever, sometimes we need you to pop back in. So I didn't know it was going to be a multi-episode arc until when Lily dies.
Yeah, we saw that you were on that.
But we did the podcast for that episode not long ago because we were talking about Conrad and stuff, and I was like, oh, there's Steven.
Yeah. Well, and that was my second episode, and I didn't know. I didn't know I was coming back, and all of a sudden I get, hey, are you available to be in this episode? And I'm like, well, yeah. I'm like, what? This is awesome, And so I'm all excited, just thinking, oh, well, I guess Bradley didn't get fired from the show or from the hospital. And I pop in, and Amy was one of the writers. She might have been the only writer on that one. I can't remember.
She was the solo writer on that episode.
She what?
She was the solo writer for that episode. Yes.
Yeah. So she put me in there, and I remember thinking I only had 1 or 2 lines, and I remember thinking, what am I doing here? Why am I here? No offense to me, but this could be anybody,
Right.
And so Amy was explaining how the scene was going to go, and she said to me, she in front of everyone, she goes, oh, thanks for coming back, by the way. And I said, are you kidding me? You're welcome. I don't know. I'm just glad to be here. She's like, thanks for coming back, by the way. And I said, oh, of course. I said, I'm just glad Bradley didn't get fired from the hospital. And she said, oh, no. We've got big plans for your character.
Oh, so that's when you had to hit that you were going to do that. I found out.
And she said,
oh, my God.
Oh, she didn't say another word. She just moved on. And I go, what does that mean? Just say that. Yeah, so I'm asking everybody. I'm like, do you know anything about this? What does that mean? I've never had. This was only my 3rd or 4th recurring role on any TV show.
Yeah,
so it's just what in the world. So I had no idea. And I was in Argentina, and they said, "Hey, can you be in this episode?" And I said, "Well, I'm in Argentina right now. Like, what? When is it?" You know? They said, "We need you back Monday," and I said, "All right, I'll make it happen." And I ended up flying back early from Argentina, which is basically Antarctica, and I flew back early for that. And that's when I found out all the stuff about the skylight and everything.
Oh
so,
my god!
Wow.
I didn't know what I was doing yet.
That
Thanks.
was like for me, like that. What did you think when you saw that? Like that was gonna happen. Like you were gonna be your character was pretty much falling off the roof, and then you were gonna like all this. What was your first thought thinking when you read that?
You know, when I came back from Argentina, one of the, it was Lauren, the script supervisor, who told me what was happening in the following episode, and I was like, "What?" And she's like, "Yeah, you come in and you're all like, hyper, and you're all jacked up on like energy drinks and Adderall, and then you're all excited and this and blah blah blah, and then you crash through a skylight." And I was like, "Come on." Like, yeah, right. Hilarious. Good joke. And she's like, "No, I'm serious." And I'm like, "Wait, what? Really?" She said, "Yeah, you crash through a skylight and you get impaled." I'm like, "Do I die?" She's like, "No." I'm like, "Sweet." So she's telling me the whole plot of the whole thing, and I'm freaking out because I'm thinking I'm going over this emotional roller coaster because, do I die? No. Okay, cool. But then you like come and they save your life, and then you decide you don't want to be at the hospital anymore. I'm like, "No!" Like. So wait, am I gone? And that is the first I heard of it. But when I got the script, the way it worked out timing-wise with, we filmed it in January, and it was right after like a month of hiatus, and I had not been. The way it worked with guest actors, or the way it works is like we don't get scripts ahead of time. We don't get, you know what I mean? We kind of get like most of the time we kind of get the stuff when they book us. They send us the script, Well, the way it worked timing-wise, they had told me I was in the episode, but they didn't officially book me paperwork-wise until like the day before. So I got the script almost the day, like 2 days before we started filming, and I'm reading through and I see I gotta like cry at the end and stuff, and I go, "Oh no, can I even do that?" Like I'm freaking out. And it's so fun, and I'm reading the script and I'm thinking, man, at this point, whoever wrote this has like written it in the tone of my voice, and it turned out to be it was Michael.
Not around.
Yeah. So co-written with Todd, and and I'm like, who is this guy that's written this so accurately, in the tone of my voice that I've never even met before,
Yeah.
And he's become a great friend of mine. So it was super cool to meet him and kind of be like, man, you just nailed it, And the amount of trust that he had given to me, in the character as well, was phenomenal. So I read that script, I think, one day before we started filming, and then that Tuesday, that was a Monday, and then that Tuesday, was 15 hours of just like laying on hospital beds and going in and out of MRI machines and CAT scans. Just hooked up to monitors.
Yeah, you were pretty unconscious for most of that episode.
Oh, yeah, a lot of it for sure. But yeah, it was so fun, and it was really cool to you kind of read this scene and you're like, wow, I've got a lot of the lines in this scene with Matt, Manish, and Shawnette.
Yeah.
And it was unbelievable. I was like, wow, that's a lot. That catapulted me in like kind of bigger character, like realm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was it intimidating to do that monologue with all of them?
100%. Well, and so that, like I said, that episode was written by Notarilli, and it was directed by James Roday, which I don't know. Do you know who James Roday is? Okay, yeah. From Psych, yeah, and now currently on A Million Little Things. And he directed episode 5 as well, where I passed out during the surgery. So I'd already worked with him, which was amazing. Plus, he's an actor, so he gets it on like a different level, you know, like a different plane in a way that like he just knows what would be important to somebody. And so for that one scene, you know, it's been a long day of shooting other scenes where I was mostly unconscious, but I'm like stressed about this one scene, right? And we're about to shoot it, and he comes up to me and he goes, "Okay, so you've got all the heavy lifting on this scene. So do you want to just attack this thing on the front end and we can start with coverage on you, or would you rather me get coverage of the other actors first?" And it blew my mind. I've never been asked that question before. It's usually just you get what you get. You know, they're going to have the camera on you when it's convenient for them, you know, because they get the shot, and I've been such a small role in so many things. So he's asking me, do I want to start with me or do I want to start with them? And I'm in a scene with Matt, Manish, and Shawnette. They are 3 of the top 5 at the time characters on the show, you know. And I just was like, I don't even know what I should say to this. And just a split-second decision, I just thought, you know, if it was a comedic scene, I would really want to like kind of ease into it. But since it's dramatic, I don't want to have it and lose it. So I said, let's just start with me. And they did 3 setups with 3 cameras per setup, and I only did 3 takes.
Wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
so it really went better than I thought it could go. I mean, I did not think it was going to go that well.
So what take did they use?
They used a compilation of all 3. So depended, you know, they would have the wide shot where they would put it in, and there's all of us, and then the close-up shot, that was take number 3, and they just cut it all together from 9 different angles, 3 different takes. So I was so happy with it. You know, by the time that I finished that, which had been the most stressful scene I was ever going to shoot, by the time that I finished and I had done those 3 takes, I just thought, you know, I'm happy with anything that they use out of any of that. That's the only time I felt that way. Sometimes you do something and you go, I hope they don't use that one. Yeah, and just, you know, James Roday was super thrilled with how it went, and, you know, he was like, yeah, that's it. Let's move on to the next setup, you know. So, and then Notarilli was great with my, like, little fluctuation and ad-libs, and it just worked out really well. And by the time, that was day 2, and I think I filmed 6 days on that episode, and by the time that was over, the rest of the episode was just fun. Because everything else was either me unconscious or me, like, having, like, really funny scenes at the beginning where I'm messing with Matt and Shawnette and, you know, things like that. So it was a very, very cool episode.
It's a good thing, though, that it was in the beginning, because, you know, like, I would imagine that if it was at the end, you'd be thinking that scene, you know what I mean? Like, you'd have that scene in your head all the time, so you wouldn't be able to enjoy really the rest of the setup because you're, like, stressing out about the big monologue.
You're absolutely right. I would rather just get it out of the way. You know, and I think it was nice, too, that I didn't get the script until so close to actual shooting, because I didn't have... I mean, if I would have gotten it a month before, I would have had 1 month to be stressed about it. Yeah. Well, it is crazy. You know, it's like, it's hard to... That was the first time I got a real glimpse into what it would be like to be a series regular on a show. And, you know, you're shooting it out of order. So now you have to be in the mental state of, like, I've crashed through a skylight. I'm going on to, you know, I don't want to work at the hospital anymore. This isn't my career, you know. And then the next day is like, okay, the beginning of the episode where you're, like, bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, and, you know, switch like that.
Yeah.
Do that for 6 days.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Can I ask you a personal question?
Sure.
Have you ever... Bradley obviously was suffering from depression, had suicidal thoughts.
Right.
Have you ever been
Struggled
in that mindset? Yeah.
Not to that extent. I would say I've never had suicidal thoughts, mostly because I care so much about friends and family. I can't imagine making a decision like that and leaving my loved ones to deal with the ramifications of it. However, I will say, like, I've struggled in some form or fashion with depression since high school. And it's a very serious thing. It's very, it's difficult to know what to do about it. And, it's hard to communicate that to people who haven't struggled with that in some form or fashion, because it's not just pick yourself up by your bootstraps. Sometimes it's a chemical.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's, circumstantial. Right? Well, and I think I could identify. I mean, when I read the scene for the first time, I just thought, gosh, I've been all these little things that he's talking about. I've been here in some form or fashion, minus the suicidal thoughts, but like also just, I mean, there've definitely been times in my life where I've thought to myself, like, can this be over? Like, it's just been so hard, such a struggle. And I think those kinds of things, especially in the acting career, those kinds of things, if you can get through them, will shape who you become and who you will be. But sometimes it's just so hard. And so reading this script with this last scene where he's, he can't figure out what he wants to do with his life, and I just spent all this time and money becoming this career that I don't even think I want to do. Well, I've been there. I was a investment analyst. I got a finance degree. I thought that was going to be, I did that on purpose. I thought that was going to be my career. And now I'm going, I don't know if this is for me. So I can identify with that aspect of it. And then he's talking about how, he just didn't want to let his parents down. And that was the case for me. I mean, my parents have always been supportive of me as a person, but they've never really encouraged me to be an actor when I was a kid because of how hard it is. And it really is that hard. So I don't blame them for trying to steer me away from it. But, that's sort of like I became a doctor because it's what my parents wanted for me. Yeah, that's why I stopped acting.
The finance degree.
Yeah. And so, and I can totally identify, there's that one line where he said, I thought about it all the time. Not landing on Dr. Bell's conference table per se, but I thought about stepping off that rooftop. That was one of the times, close to it anyway. And gosh, I can identify with that, just that sort of like, man, it would really be a lot easier if this just wasn't my story and my path, right?
Yeah, that's, I remember that.
I think
actually,
that like,
that was actually like in my mind too, when I was like, before the pills, I was like, it would probably be easier on everybody, actually, not just on me, but on everybody. If like,
which is not the case. It's true, and this is one of the lies we can believe about ourselves. But I can see why in the moment, I can see why people go through this, and I can identify with people that do have these thoughts. I totally get it. Like, I can see how it can get there, So I think that, like, while Bradley's story is very, very similar to mine in a lot of ways, it's like my story turned up to 12,
Yeah.
And he's just he doesn't want to be a failure. He doesn't want to let his parents down, and it's just so much pressure he puts on himself. And I felt that way for sure in life.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think most of us do.
Parents, grandparents, you don't want to let them down,
No.
Right.
Yeah, it's like family pressure or whatever.
Yeah.
So, if you weren't an actor, what would you be doing? I mean, obviously you have a finance degree, so would you go back to finance?
You know what? It's funny that you mentioned that. I hated that. I hated doing finance back in, when I was doing it for like a career, but in the last year or so I've actually become more interested in the stock market in general, and actually finally put some of my own money into it, just small amounts to play around. So I have rediscovering an interest in it, which is nice. But I think, gosh, Kayla, if I knew the answer to that question, I would probably be doing it, because being an actor is so hard. And I tell people all the time, they said, you've left your corporate job to go pursue a passion of yours. Are you just like living the dream? Are you loving every minute of it? And my short answer is not really. I love acting. I absolutely do. But a lot of times I don't like being an actor, because the difference is you know, when you get hired to go do a job, when I got hired to go do The Resident and I kept getting written back into the show and all that, oh my gosh, that was my favorite. It was amazing. What a cast and crew. What an opportunity. So much fun to work with those people. I was loving it. But the rest, you know, that was my last episode. I think I filmed in 2015. And I really haven't done much since. I've done like a few commercials. I did a one-liner in a Ron Howard movie, but for the most part, it's just auditioning and looking for new roles and trying to find the next thing, and that is so exhausting. And people keep saying like, you know, oh man, you're very talented. Like, sure, certainly you'll work after this, and there's got to be big stuff on the horizon. And those are all wonderful, nice sentiments that really do land on my heart. At the same time, that doesn't pay the bills, you know? So to feel like you've been getting passed over time and time and time again for, you know, since 2018, so it's 2020 now.
Hey, fingers crossed something big's gonna happen.
I believe for good things. I absolutely do. I think that, you know, and I don't think people are lying when they say those things to me. And you keep hoping for what's next. And certainly, obviously, I hope The Resident continues to you know, to be a show because I love it. You know, and there's also part of me that can't wait to work with any and all of these people on the next project, you know. So anyway.
I know you still hang out with Tasso, but do you hang out with any of the other cast members?
I hang out with Tasso a lot. When he's down from, he lives in New York, so when he's down from New York, we go rock climbing a bunch. When I say Tasso, Manish, Mike Hogan, who plays Dr. Albert Nolan on the show, I hang out with him a fair amount too. He lives right up the street from me. They all. I think Mike Hogan still lives right up the street. I hadn't seen him in a while, but so those are the people I really hang out with outside of this.
So there was another episode that was really pivotal to Bradley, and obviously it was his death episode, and it ties in. You had a lot of scenes with Malcolm-Jamal Warner. How was doing all that?
Unbelievable. I loved working with Malcolm-Jamal. I think he goes by Malcolm-Jamal, but a lot of people call him Malcolm. But anyway, I absolutely loved it. I think I really got to. I had a lot of scenes where I was in them with him, but I was unconscious. So we would be, you know, like he'd be doing surgery on me, all that sort of thing. I didn't get to interact with him until, oh gosh, I think it was maybe season 2, episode 5, where he's yelling at me about which heart valve to get. You know? And I loved it. It was amazing. But I got to spend some time with him on Devin's Not Wedding episode.
Yes.
I think it was called The Dance. And and there were so many everybody was there. I was just like honored to be a part of this, you know, and every cast member was there.
Did you love your costume in that episode? Oh my god.
Oh, I loved it. You know,
y'all looked really good in that too. All of the guys, all the women, everyone looked really good in that episode.
Yeah, it was called a Sherwani. I learned that. But yeah, Tasso and I had the same outfit. It was so fun. And that's actually when we became friends as well. So during that, there were 10 or 15 of us that had our chairs all lined up. And Malcolm and I were sitting next to one another. And I was just picking his brain about what it was like to grow up, from 13 years old till now, till present. Just being
30 years. Oh my God.
Being in the public eye and all that. And we were chatting about life and all those things. And at one point he brought up he had just seen a rock climbing movie. And I said, oh, yeah, well, I'm a rock climber and all that. And Tasso overhears me say that from like across the room. And he goes, you're a rock climber? What's up? And that's when we really became friends. He had just gotten into it. His girlfriend was really into climbing, and he's like kind of new to it. And now he's better than I am. I'm convinced of that.
If Bradley had lived, what do you think he would be doing?
Okay, good question. I like that question. So it's funny in the episode where the Skylight episode, Rude Awakenings and the Raptor. At the end of that, I originally the script had a couple different ideas about what Bradley said. You know, if I would have known that, I would have gone and been a travel consultant or what. You know, he just said a bunch of things, like an architect, I think was one of them. So that kind of gave me the idea of like what would Bradley have really wanted to do? You know, because he's trying to discover, I don't want to be a doctor anymore. What would I really want to do? And I kind of always thought, architect was one of them. I think a photographer was one of them. So I kind of lapsed onto that photographer one. And I think that, the way that they kind of pivoted from that scene, they cut those things out because they didn't want to pigeonhole Bradley into, one thing. Because if I say I want to go be a photographer and I come back and I'm a medical marketing guy, then, everyone's going to go, why didn't you go do photography? But I do think that, like, yeah, I think that's one of the things. So obviously Bradley loved his like career change, medical marketing. I think he's a people person. He's a salesman a little bit. I always thought it was funny in episode 5 that he came back and he's got like new PJs and new watch and like he's like got money now, right? So he's like
new hairdo,
new haircut, and so like, oh my god, you almost like shake your head. You're like, Bradley, dude, get it together, because he like doesn't know what to do with his newfound like financial freedom, I guess. So I was kind of pictured. I think he loved that job, and I think that. He would have been totally happy to kind of do those presentations, do the medical marketing thing, staying in the medical field, but kind of being more personable and more, sales oriented rather than the actual surgery. I think that was a win for him. And, but, I feel like at a certain point he would kind of even out with his new financial freedom, sort of kind of level out and maybe not have to spend it on all the nice things of the world. But I kind of always pictured Bradley spending his time on like travel and that photography thing. I think that would be a hobby. I think he would use some of that money to go out and get a pretty sweet DSLR camera. So I always saw him like, yes, he sticks with medical marketing. Yes, he loves to travel and picks up photography as a hobby. That's kind of his side story. But mostly I think. One of the things that I really identified about the character is I just think he really just loved his friends and, kind of always, he looked up to some of them. He kind of thought of some of them as a brother,
equal.
I think Bradley and Devin were like buds and Irving, they were like buds, like equal playing field. But even though Conrad and Bradley were in the same intern class, he looked up to Conrad, and then Mina was like this unattainable, like she's never gonna. I don't even think she likes me, I just always there's like that one line in episode 12 where he says, Matt says, I think of you, or Conrad says, I think of you as the little brother I've never had, and then. Aww. And then Mina says, yeah, what he said. And I'm like, what? What? You think of me as a little brother too? And she's like, not that part. And then she walks away. But, like it comes through in the little things, like at the very end, the last episode where Bradley's about to do the presentation, my last episode, where Bradley is about to do the presentation and he's talking about, hey, Devin, this is post wedding, And he's like, dude, come over to my place. We'll play some Call of Honor, which is like a spin-off of Call of Duty, and get some pizza, drink some beer. Come on, like it's on me, kind of deal. And I just always saw him like, he just cares for his friends, So that's where I saw Bradley going if he would have lived. Work, travel, friends.
That's important.
Yeah.
Did you know in advance Bradley was gonna die?
No. Well, I didn't even know Bradley was going to be in a second episode, so of course I didn't know he was going to die. But my last episode I really think was supposed to be the Raptor, the Skylight one. The Raptor first episode. I decide I don't want to be a doctor anymore, and I'm going to go on about my life. Well, that was, as far as I know, I think that was originally the end of me being on the show. And I yeah, once again, probably a question you'd have to ask Amy. But I thought it was my last episode. I posted something about it on Facebook, like, this is my last episode. It's so fun to work with this cast and crew. And Amy commented on my Facebook post and said, "Not your last episode, season 2." And I was like, how are you going to write that? And it's Amy, so you're already like, what? You created this show. Unbelievable.
She must really like you.
I guess so. I don't know why. And yeah, so she wrote that on my, and I didn't know what that meant, of course. And then so finally they bring me, they book me on episode 5, and I get the script, and I'm reading it. I kind of pulled. I think I was driving at the time. I pulled over to read the script, and I was with my girlfriend at the time, and I said, I started reading it, and I saw how much of a fight Bradley was putting up about getting the Quo Vadis device, and I thought, I think I'm gonna die. Like that episode, I was like, he is making a big stink about wanting this Quo Vadis device, and I just thought, I just think I'm gonna die. And that big scene about fighting the Raptor over, he wanted Aor Med and I wanted Quo Vadis, and I don't want old news. I thought, I just think he dies. So I got the valve. I was in 2 or 3 more episodes, and then I get a call from Rob Korn, one of the executive producers.
EP.
Yeah, director of many episodes. And I get it, and it says, maybe, my phone says, maybe Rob Korn. And I go, this is either about to be the best phone call of my life, or I'm going to find out what I've been dreading since episode 5. And so I pick up the phone, and, hey, Steve, it's Rob. Oh, hey, Rob, how's it going? And he tells me, he said, so this is going to be Bradley's last episode. And I go, I knew it. I knew it. And I said, you know what, Rob? I said, I only thought that I was going to be in 1 episode, and every episode since then has been a bonus. So this best serves the story. I'm into it. Like, well, that's a great attitude to have. And so,
but the funny thing about that episode, when they started promoting it, I remember the press release. It blatantly says Bradley dies, and I'm like, why in the world would they release this information?
I know.
It was on the cover. It was on the promo for that episode.
Yeah, it was in the promo.
Too. Yeah, I remember. And the director of that episode was Tim Good.
I love Tim. He's amazing.
He's awesome. And he's, the supervising editor on the show, and he directed that episode. And we had been like Facebook friends for a while, because he edited most of my major episodes. Like, he actually edited. And he's like, I'm coming in to direct. And I'm like, what? No way. So he came in and directed that episode. And I remember when we were so excited about it to come out, because it was his first episode that he directed. Yeah. And I remember when that promo came out, and I texted him and I said, what is this? I've been keeping this a secret for, and he just laughed, and he was like, there's so many people that have decisions in why and when, and, and I was thinking about it. I don't know how they would have really promoted that episode without, because the whole episode is about avenging, my death and all that sort of thing. I don't know how they would have promoted it if they didn't just come out and say it. So it was just funny, because I've been keeping that a secret for months, and then all of a sudden they're like,
no, but I remember all the comments on the press release were like, what the crap? They spoiled the plot.
Right. Yeah. Who knows?
Yeah, Aaron was like, why did they say that already? Like, it's on this show. I can't tell you.
This is a Fox decision. We don't have any proof over that one.
Yeah, and I have no, who knows why. But, it was a little bit of a relief for me, because think about, I've been keeping that a secret for quite some time. And finally I could just be like, yep, according to public news, I'm not on the show anymore. So, and all the people that were saying, like, how many more episodes, and are you still working on the Resident and all that, and I can't even say anything. And then finally that news comes out, and I go, yeah, I'm not on the show anymore.
Oh.
I know. What a run, though. When you think you're really only signing on for 1 episode, and they write you into 2 seasons and 9 episodes later, and
Yeah, major storylines.
amazing.
Did you know that Bradley's death was going to be the catalyst for everything to happen with Quo Vadis?
I didn't. I felt like I said about episode 5, when I read episode 5, I thought, yeah, this is going to be a bigger storyline, right? The Quo Vadis stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't know I was going to be like the inciting incident, the instigation that would bring them down. It's it's a catalyst for us to see the humanity of the raptor, who is like, his ego is like bruised and just demolished, and he thinks it's his fault, and he's like not even able to do surgery anymore, and questioning everything that he knows, and what it
breaking the lights in the OR and stuff.
Right.
Like that.
But it was just a really good. I think that it was always my goal to kind of have to create a character that people actually cared about. I think I probably overshot it, because I think the audience maybe cared a little bit too much, and that's when they kill you. So,
like you've been watching too much Grey's Anatomy, if you think.
Right.
That's all Shonda does. Anyway, so let's talk about the bunny suit.
Oh my gosh, I didn't.
Okay, so for those who are not aware, I think one of the very last things we see Bradley with is you laying on the couch, kind of like Titanic style, with a dust bunny suit. Okay, so Aaron told us to ask you the story on how you found out about that.
Yeah. Okay. So I get the script for season 2, episode 11, where I die, and it talks about how they're kind of going through some photos. Actually, Rob called me. One of the reasons why he called me was he wanted to see if I could shoot him some photos of me kind of doing like outdoorsy things and things like that, So I sent over a bunch of photos from like my Facebook page, and then there was one in the bunny suit, and I'm thinking to myself, okay,
wait, that's an actual. That was a photo before you filmed the set.
Oh no! That was the one that they needed to do a photo shoot for.
Oh.
And so. Yeah, so I get that, I see it in the script, and I get that that mental picture in my mind that I had was, I think they've sort of painted Bradley as like this kind of boyish guy, right? This boyish character. And so in my mind, it was always a giant pink fuzzy, like Ralphie from the Christmas Story costume. I was picturing like just kind of, sticking out of this giant fuzzy costume the whole time. That is all I ever thought it would be. And so I show up, and they're like, I'm doing this photo shoot. I got to do one for like my eulogy photo and all these. So I had to do these 4 or 5 different like photos. And she hands me the costume designer. She's like, okay, let's get your bunny costume. And she goes and gets it, and she comes out, and it's like these 2 things that are barely hanging on a hanger. And I go, where's the rest of it? And she was like, this is it. And I go, how's that a bunny costume? I'm like, I couldn't picture it yet. And she pulls out the bunny ears, and I go, oh no, this is definitely something different than I thought. Like, open on the side, shorts, and, the bunny ears. I didn't know it was like a dust bunny, Or I think I did, but I just still pictured the pink. Anyway, so they send me out to go do the photo shoot with the set photographer guy, and one of the guys in the AD department, Johnny, and then one of the props guys, and they give me no direction. This is Tim's episode. He didn't say. He just said go have fun, kind of thing. And I was just like, if we're gonna do this, we better darn well do this. So I figured my inspiration for that photo shoot was, did you ever see Seinfeld, George Costanza's boudoir photo?
Yeah.
I did.
Yeah.
I did. Yeah.
Oh my God.
That's why you see me on the couch, just doing poses. That was the inspiration.
Oh my God, that was too funny. I laughed so hard when that happened. I was like, this is supposed to be sad, and I'm laughing.
Yeah. When they wanted to paint the picture of like, Well, that's classic Bradley. Like, this is the guy we knew and loved. You know, just kind of making people laugh and whatever. So I thought that was great. I loved it. You know, after like wrapped my brain around the fact that I was wearing next to nothing. You know.
That was too funny. And your stunt double too.
Oh yeah.
You and your stunt double really do look alike.
Yeah. Well, they he had a buzzed head, but a big beard, and so they trimmed his beard to look like mine, and then they put a wig on top of him to have longer hair.
Oh wow.
Yeah, but he was about my height and build and all that, and I remember thinking, I wonder why, because I did in episode 5, season 1, where I have to pass out during surgery. I did all those stunts. I fell on the ground, I landed on crash pads. I pulled, you know, all the instruments and all that. I did all that, and then I also did the falling on the ground when I did my heart valve and the presentation. But I wondered why they didn't ask me if I wanted to do the stunt, because I probably would have said yes. And on the day when I actually saw it, I remember seeing him crash through the skylight and land on the table, and I thought, wow, I am so glad I did not do that.
How did that happen? Did they like have like what wires or something? Well, how did the whole crash scene happen?
Yeah, he did. So it was, they have like fake probably sugar glass and like silicone type stuff that looks like glass. So he's crashing through something that's not real glass. He had some pads, protective padding, under his scrubs, made him look a little bulkier, but like he had like pads, and he even had a little like helmet under the wig. He had like a little like helmet, sort of like a yarmulke, like plastic helmet type thing, his head. And then they had a 4-point harness with ropes, that he dropped through. But I mean, he came down still very fast
and hard.
Yeah, you can change some of that with camera, speed and stuff like that. You can speed it up, slow it down to make it look worse than it is. But I saw it live, and it was impressive. And I went and shook his hand afterwards. I was like, dude, that was amazing. Are you okay? He's like, yeah.
Was that done in one take or what?
They did multiple takes with, maybe they would have the camera under and they would lower him quickly, but not all the way, and all these different things with the rig. But that one take where you see him kind of hit the table and bounce, that was just one. Yeah, and he had to just lay there, in his exact position, and everyone left the room, and I came in and I looked at how he was laying there, and I got back on the table in his exact spot without trying to move anything else, So I probably would have said yes to do the stunt. I'm really glad I didn't.
Okay, so we're gonna do the lightning round.
Lightning round. Okay.
Yeah.
I wasn't prepared for this.
You have to. These are not. We're surprising you with the questions, but you have to kind of. First thing that pops to your mind. Okay, so pineapple on pizza.
What's that?
No? Pineapple on pizza or no?
I don't like it. Yeah.
We know that Bradley does. Yeah. I wonder if you do.
Yeah, Bradley likes it.
Not Steven.
Yeah, not Steven. Bradley, not Steven.
Cats or dogs?
Dogs. Look! Oh, on cue. Rosie. This is Rosie. Yeah.
Favorite food?
Favorite food? Mine? Pizza, but not pineapple pizza.
Well, what kind?
I'm a meat lover, so pretty much just give me the one with all the meats on it.
All right, what's your dream role?
Series regular on a network comedy. Maybe something like, did you ever see Parks and Rec?
I know of it, yeah.
I would have loved to have been on Parks and Rec. These days, shows that are on TV that I'd really like to be on, I'd say Brooklyn Nine-Nine. But I really want to be a main character on one of those types of shows. You know what I mean? And so if Fox has got a comedy coming out, I really want to be on that.
All right.
How are you similar to Bradley?
Oh, so many ways. I think that Bradley, yeah, I mean, I think he's got a really deep desire to succeed in life, which is true of me as well. Failure is not something that comes naturally to him, and so it's especially hard when it does. I think that he likes his, like I said earlier, he just like really is like deep down like a warm-hearted person that really thinks highly of his friends, and that's how I am. I think I think he's loud, he's boyish. I'm a little bit like that. I'm kind of like a beagle if I were a dog, and I think he means well and he cares about people.
All right. What superpower would you want and why?
Superpower. Something to do with time. Maybe time travel or maybe stopping time. I think it would be super cool to be able to stop time so that like maybe I could sleep while, maybe the world pauses and then I go to sleep and I wake up and I've got like a full 24 hours a day. Either that or teleportation.
Just don't mess up time like the Flash does, okay?
Yeah, I don't want to. I just want to pause it.
Yeah.
What do you like to do between roles?
Outdoorsy things, rock climbing, camping, hiking. I like to do travel and big trips. I love going to national parks, Argentina, that kind of, those kinds of places.
Have you been, well, obviously your trip to Argentina got cut short because you were supposed to film an episode. Have you been back since?
No, but I did. I was on there for a 19-day trip, and I was there for 16 days, so it was good enough for sure. Do all the good stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was awesome.
Yeah.
What was the last book you read?
I just finished. Oh my gosh, can't believe I have to answer this on the podcast. I just finished The 5 Love Languages. Have you ever read that book?
No.
Oh my gosh, it's like this. It's this Christian author, and he talks about the 5 languages that we, sort of speak to one another about, like how we are loved and how we love other people. So the 5 love languages are words of affirmation, physical touch, quality time, acts of service, and giving of gifts. And I'm somewhere between words of affirmation and physical touch. So that's the last book that I finished.
What's the last movie you saw?
I watched Onward, the animated, the Pixar with Chris Pratt and I believe Tom Holland. I saw that. Yeah, I really liked it. It was really fun.
Hey, which couple on The Resident do you ship the most? Is it Connick or Minotaur or,
Minotaur? Oh, that's so funny.
Hey, Fox
I
uses
love,
it.
I
Fox
love
actually uses
Irving.
that.
Oh, Minotaur?
Yeah.
Oh, that's so good. I love Irving and Jessica. I love them. They're so great. I love how
they're my favorite too.
Yeah.
They're my favorite couple.
And they're so funny and they're both friends of mine in real life now, and I just like love that storyline, how it all panned out, and it started with a hookup, right? Yeah, I love it.
Yeah.
My favorite.
One of my favorite scenes. I'm not a crier, but for some reason The Resident make me cry. And it's not even on scenes that like most people cry at. But the one scene that touched me the most was when Jessica said, "Are you ashamed of me?"
Yeah.
Because like she was like, "Let's go, hold my hand and walk with me out in the hallway," and Irving hesitated doing that. She was like, "Are you ashamed of me?" And I started crying right then and there.
Yeah, and I just love that. I love that couple. I love how that whole thing panned out. I love the episode where, where she had her accident and he was just like an emotional wreck and kind of incapable of making like medical decisions. And they're like, get him out of here. That was a great episode. So that's my favorite couple.
Love them.
I think. Yeah.
Who's your dream director to work with?
In general?
Yeah, like if you could choose one person, the person that you would want to work with as a director, who would it be?
I would say it's funny because I kind of just did. I would say Ron Howard is one of the huge ones for me, and I was like thrilled to work with him. Even though I only had one line, I would have taken a no-liner. Heck, I would have done if they just said, "Hey, you can just come hang out on set and watch Ron Howard work." I would have done that, you know. So I think that I was telling
you
people,
both have red hair.
Yeah. I was telling people, you know, on the day, like kind of joking about the fact that I only had the one line, and I kept saying, "Well, you know, this is just my first Ron Howard film," and so. So I can't wait to work with him again someday. How about that? But I think growing up, you know, I've always wanted to work with Steven Spielberg. You know, I think Adam McKay is a fantastic director. He directed like The Big Short and what was the movie called? Vice, I think it was, the Dick Cheney movie. But he also has done comedies like Step Brothers. I think he didn't do Step Brothers. He did The Other Guys, is what I'm thinking. And so I'd love to work with him as well on a comedy or a drama. I don't care.
So you like comedic roles more than dramatic roles?
Yeah, I tend towards. I think even in The Resident, which is the like dramatic show, I found the comedy within the drama
Moments. Yeah.
And that's kind of like whether I'm on a drama or whether I'm on a comedy itself, I like playing the comedic side of things if they'll let me. I'm no stranger to drama. I think there's like a huge, like it's entirely impactful. But I think in my real life, I love making people laugh.
Okay, you got any more questions, Kayla?
I don't.
I don't have questions anymore.
That's it.
Yeah.
Thank you for joining us.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. I think you know, I'm honored that you asked and that we got to do this. I think this is amazing that you're putting this out. I love the show. I love being a part of it. I miss working on it. I'm so thankful for the time that I have spent on it.
Yeah, a lot of fans have suggested that maybe Bradley has a twin and you can come back.
I would love it. I've been trying to put that all the, you know, for No to Really. I'm like, every once in a while, I'll just text him and I'll be like, "Hey, here's the deal. Bradley's got an evil twin." Or, you know, flashback, spin-off. I just like anytime I have an idea about how Bradley can come back, I'm like, bring me back.
Yeah.
But what an honor it was to be a part of the show while I was, and you know, what a cool cast and crew to work with. I can't wait to work with them again someday. So thank you for having me on your podcast, and I'm so excited you get to interview Amy.
Yes.
That's amazing.
I am.
And all it was Camille said
She's
something
the true hero.
in one of the previous podcasts we did. She said, "I would love to have Amy on the podcast," and she posted it on Instagram. Amy commented within 24 hours and said, "Let's do it," or something like that. And I was like,
But for me, I was like, and then I messaged her. I was like, "Are you serious?"
Yeah.
Like, you know, like, are you really serious about this?
I think that like I never got I've done probably 15 plus television shows. I never got recognized until The Resident, and the very first time I was recognized, I thought it was a joke. I thought somebody had put somebody out, you know. It was at my church, and you know, this guy comes up to me. He's like, "Are you Bradley from The Resident?" And I go, "Yeah, hilarious." I was like, "You recognize me from the show?" He's like, "Yeah." And I'm like, "Did Rob put you up to this?" He's like, "No, I watched the show." I'm like, "You do?" You know. So.
Yeah, but I mean, it's been 2 years since the episode aired, and people still remember it. And so, like, that's gotta be feeling good. But like, your character was so impactful that years later, people are still talking about, you know, that scene or whatever. You know what I mean?
Honestly, that blows my mind. When we were talking about it on the Facebook, you know, on the fans page.
Yeah.
It's just like, what? People still remember this? You know, like it makes me feel so honored just to have been a part of such a. Because I do think that's an important story that mental health is an extremely important thing, and I think a lot of times people just kind of try to just grin and bear it. Yeah.
When people think about Bradley, they mostly think about the Skylight episode, or they think about that monologue. You know what I mean?
And that just means so much to me, knowing, to like what a. I knew that was going to be a stressful scene to film. It was my most difficult scene in any of the episodes that I had to do, especially the fact that it was completely dramatic, not comedic, and it was there's just a lot of pressure on it. So the way that it turned out was just like, I couldn't have been more thrilled. I literally, when I finished it, I said, any edit of any one of those takes, I'm good. I'm good with that. That is exactly how I wanted that to go. So I'm really glad to hear you say the same. Thank you.
Thank you, Steven.
Thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
Absolutely, Thanks for inviting me.
Okay, we'll see you.
So we want to thank Steven for joining us on the podcast. We're very grateful he agreed to be on the Resident Rulebreakers. It was such an amazing time interviewing him. Believe me, what you heard is a very cut down version.
We talked for almost 2 hours.
Yeah, and we got it 2 hours down into almost an hour, so it's pretty amazing. But before we go, I do want to say that next week we are going to be interviewing Miss Amy Holden Jones, the co-creator of The Resident, on the Resident Rulebreakers, and we're so very excited to have Amy on.
Yes.
So
we're going to discuss the origins of The Resident, how it came about, and
how they things with filming in Georgia and to record, doing things from the writer's room in LA, and all this crazy stuff, that how they handle a bi-coastal project like this. It's going to be pretty awesome.
Yes.
So stay tuned. Stay tuned for that. So another thing before we go, subscribe to our, the podcast. We have Apple Podcasts, we have Spotify, we have Google Play, we have Soundcloud, YouTube. So we have all of that, and then you can contact us. It's our email, which is theresidentRulebreakers@gmail.com. We have the Facebook group, which is the Resident Fox Fans. So you can
also don't forget to follow us on Instagram at the Resident Podcast.
And then also Camille's Instagram is the Resident on Fox Fans. Mine is KB Country 37.
Yep.
So, and then that's
also just as addition, don't forget, if you are suffering from suicidal ideation or someone you know is, please don't forget to call National Suicide Prevention Hotline, 1-800-273-8255.
So, until next week, I'm Kayla.
And I'm Camille. Bye.
Bye.